Welcome to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso. I'm the creator and host of our show, and I am excited that you are with us today, and I'm very excited about our guest, Mr. Tim Shurr. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tim in just a second, and then he's going to tell us a little bit about him. However, before we get started, I just want to thank you for tuning into the Success Ascent podcast. We do this for you, our listeners. If you've not yet gotten our updates or you haven't gotten on our list, please go to patmancuso.com/podcast. You'll be able to get all of our information there. Subscribe to whatever sources you listen to, Apple, Spotify. We're all over the place. So we just want to always thank you for that and acknowledge you. So let me tell you about our guest today, Mr. Tim Shurr. And before I do, I want to share gratitude with Mr. Dan Young for connecting us. And I'm just really excited what Tim is going to bring to the table today. So let me tell you about Tim. So first, Tim is the owner of Shurr Success. And you say, well, maybe I've not heard of Tim. You must be under a rock if you haven't heard of Tim, because he's been all over the place. First, he's a thought leader and a communication expert. We're going to hear a lot about that today in our conversation. He's got advanced degrees in psychology and is a multi-award-winning hypnotist. Now, Tim, you're not going to hypnotize me during the podcast because that might be a problem. He's got
it would be fun.
What's that?
It would be fun.
It would be fun. There you go. 32 years of work with people uncovering unconscious beliefs, biases and habits, and blind spots. And boy, do we all have some of those. He's an award-winning leadership speaker. He's also written a number of books, including The Power of Optimism, Get Out of Your Way, and One Belief Away. He's also got a program that we're going to talk about at the end, so stay tuned because he's got a free gift for us, and I love when our guests come with gifts. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pat. It's an honor to be with you today.
So, Tim, I always like to have some fun with my guests when we start off, and I say, well, that was Tim on paper. Tell us something about the real Tim or who Tim is.
Tim's this crazy hypnotist that has a true desire and passion to help people end needless emotional suffering. I had so much anxiety and insecurity because of the experiences that I went through in childhood that I really sabotaged myself in a lot of ways. And I felt at the time like it was just happening to me, like I was somehow unlucky or God didn't like me, or I just had, bad luck or whatever it was. And so it caused me to devote my entire adult life to figuring out how to eliminate self-sabotage, how to get rid of anxiety, how to show up feeling confident, secure, and empowered. And it took me 3 decades to figure it all out, but now I have. And so now I'm on a mission to share what I've learned so that people can feel confident and secure and make the rest of their life the best of their life.
Well, Tim, what I'm excited about today is, and you and I chatted a little bit before we got started, we've got so many things going on in our world right now, and those things challenge people's mindset, and they challenge, how they think about their futures and security. So I know we're going to delve into that in a little bit. However, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking with you about your journey. Our show is really focused on what's the journey of success through the entrepreneurs and business owners we talk to. And, you've got 30 plus years in this journey, and we always know the journey isn't directly up. Sometimes it's sideways, sometimes it's backwards, and yet the goal is always to be going up. Sure. So what have you learned in your journey of success that you would share with our listeners?
Well, I've learned several things over the years that you have to work harder on yourself than you do your business. That's not just a quote from Jim Rohn. That is a fact of life, that the biggest obstacles that we have to growing our business, creating more momentum, building referrals, getting clients who love you, is to always be developing yourself, figuring out what your own limiting beliefs are, what your own blind spots are. And it's very difficult to do that on your own. So collaborating with partners, hiring coaches, having people in your corner who will tell you the truth and help you to be able to get past your own limiting beliefs so that you don't have to make it about yourself anymore. You can truly make it about the people that you're taking care of and serving, your customers and clients and members. And when you do that, it takes your success to a whole other level. When I'm working with high-powered entrepreneurs and some of the top entrepreneurs and business owners in the country, it isn't that they're missing a fancy sales technique or a new marketing strategy. It's not that they need to master SEO or write more newsletters or do better Facebook Lives, although some of that may be important. But that's not usually what gets them to the next level. What gets them to the next level is recognizing that they might have a belief that, things don't work out for me, or I'm not worthy of this success, or, that you have to work so hard and you can never stop, or, it's all going to fall apart. And so we get overwhelmed, we get stressed out, we get so focused on putting on that show or, running on this hamster wheel that we've built for ourselves that we don't know how to get off of it. And it causes so much stress and so much frustration. And then we start abusing our bodies to try to keep up. And it doesn't get us where we want to be. So the fastest way to make breakthroughs when you are in business is to keep upgrading what's going on in here.
So as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, what limiting beliefs in your journey of success have you had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had this fear that people weren't going to like me unless I was always, I was always being a people pleaser. I was always trying to get people to, to like me or stay with me. I was constantly afraid that it wasn't going to work out. I had this strategy where I was never really playing to win. I was always playing not to lose. And when you play not to lose, you end up losing, even if it looks like on paper that you're winning. So, I would have a lot of success, but I was always anxious. My mind was always thinking, well, you did that, but what have you done lately? Or, yeah, you've done this, but look what that person has accomplished. You're not that special. And so I'd have those insecurities that would cause me to focus on what wasn't working and what wasn't good enough, which created all kinds of stress. It caused me to have a scarcity mindset rather than an abundance mindset. So I was always trying to figure out what I was going to get and what was in it for me. And, we can work together as long as I know that I'm going to be okay and you're not going to screw me over. And showing up with that kind of energy, that mistrust, right? And that limited vision is what sabotages us. So as I learned over the years to change that and feel safe and secure and feel loved, I upgraded my mind where I'm more abundant now. I'm no longer worried about what's going to show up. I'm only focused on how I'm going to show up. I'm not concerned about what's going to happen to me. I'm focused on what I'm going to bring to the situation. And I always make sure that I'm giving first, giving most, and giving often, that I am showing up, giving value and being others focused. And when you focus on lifting others up, you're lifted up with them. And so it's an extraordinary approach to be you focused in the business world where most of people are focused on themselves.
Absolutely. And I loved, I'm going to take a run at it. Giving first, giving most, and giving often.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I took that off of Silicon Valley used to say, fail first, fail fast, fail often, because failure is just feedback and you want to learn the quickest. So instead of holding back because you're afraid of failing, you need to get out there and be first, get the feedback, and then correct on the fly. So I thought that's a good philosophy too. What could you accomplish if you weren't afraid of failing?
I love that. So I want to touch on something because, I've experienced this in my journey and I know you have as well. So here you're talking about, yourself as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're talking about CEOs having these limiting beliefs. And, I think there's a perception. And so I'd love to get your perspective on this perception. There's this perception that what you just talked about, by the way, I 100% believe and in alignment with, people think is like airy-fairy. It's like, sprinkled dust. Like, where does that perception come from? And how do you help people overcome that perception? Like, this is kind of woo.
It depends on who you're talking to, right? Because we all have our beliefs. We've all been raised a certain way to believe certain things. And so our beliefs can come from our parents. It can come from religion. It can come from a variety of places. When people talk about hypnosis, the reason why they think that's a little on the fringe is because they've seen the shows in Las Vegas, or they've seen the movies where, people are putting someone into a trance and then they can't get out, or something like that. And so they make it look like someone's controlling you. And then, smart people are like, no one's going to control me. That's it's just ridiculous. Right. And so they don't trust it. They don't realize that what it really is using the power of your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind, which controls willpower, but your subconscious or your unconscious mind That's the emotional part of your brain, and it's the boss. It controls 80% of what we do. It's like the computer in your brain, and it runs the programs. The programs are your beliefs, your habits, your biases, right? What you believe, your values, your life experiences. It takes them and runs them like programs. And so sometimes we just need to upgrade our programs because we've downloaded some mental malware and it's not allowing us to be as effective as we could be. And so sometimes I'm like the Geek Squad for your brain, and I just got to clear the hard drive and let you take off the way you were born to. The other reason people think that personal development or the soft skills is airy-fairy is because, you know, Stuart Smalley on SNL, you know, doggone it, I like myself, I love myself, and people like me, you know, and it's that kind of that if I just say nice things to myself, then, you know, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And when you have a lot of type A personalities that rate low on the empathy skill, that are out there and they're tough as nails and they're business tycoons and they're crushing it and they're taking names and, you know, greed is good and all the movies that we had from the 90s, you know, that kind of mindset, winning and dominating and destroying and conquering is the fun. You know, that is, I just heard someone who's a super powerful guy, not a very nice guy, doesn't have a lot of friends that he could really trust, a lot of people that envy his money and his power, but he's all about having the power and all about having the control. That's what he enjoys, not the relationships, not lifting others up.
Right.
And so you've got transactional leaders and transformational leaders. And transformational leaders are the ones who build other leaders, who lift people up, who and understand that trust and relationships and building a team of high performers instead of you just being the high performer and everybody gloat over you. You know, that when you build a team, that's what takes your company to a level you couldn't even imagine before.
So when you and I were talking before, and I want to bring this point out because I think there's also people who have this hallucination, I'll call it that. You know, here you are, Tim, obviously knowledgeable, understand how the brain works, understand the inner workings. And yet you mentioned to me, you've got multiple coaches. So talk about that a little bit, because people would say, well, Tim, why do you need a coach?
Yeah. Why do the Olympic athletes need coaches?
Yeah.
Every Olympic athlete that we're watching on television has a coach, and they're the best athletes in the world. Why? Because they have a coach.
Right.
Right? Because it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter, you know, how much experience you have. You can't see your own blind spots, right? And you don't know everything. And so why would the president have a board of advisors? Why did King Solomon have advisors? Why did the smartest people in the world have advisors? Because we're human beings. We're not perfect. We can't see everything. We only have our slice of reality. And our slice of reality is not reality. It's just one piece of the puzzle. And the more pieces of the puzzle you have, the more you can see the whole picture.
Right.
A lot of people are running around with one piece of the puzzle, acting like they know the truth and they're the only ones that know it. And that, of course, lets you know, whoever's the loudest in the room, you know, pretending like they know everything, it kind of reveals their cards that no, they don't. So coaches are very valuable because they give you more perspective, they give you feedback, and they tell you the truth. You know, a lot of high-powered people have hired me to be their coach because I'm the only one that wasn't a yes man or a yes woman, right? I would tell them the truth, and I might get canned, but I don't care because that's what I'm here to do. And they would keep me on retainer for years just because I told them the truth.
Sure. Well, you're committed to helping them improve their life, and without being honest with them, that just doesn't happen.
Well said.
Yeah. So Tim, let's talk about what you do. Let's go a little deeper into that. So, you know, we're going to talk a little bit later about this program, the gift that you're going to give all of our listeners. So let's delve into your work around the brain and subconscious, and specifically the hypnosis. So I want to ask you a question first, have a little fun. So, you know, I've observed these hypnotic shows in Vegas, right? Sure. Somebody goes under. Are they really under? No, there's no such thing as under. Okay. They're relaxed. Okay. They volunteered to go up on stage. Okay. So they know what's expected of them. When they go up on stage, then they start to feel comfortable, and the hypnotist is looking for the people that will basically do whatever he or she asks them to do. So you go through a bunch of suggestibility tests in the beginning just to see who's going to follow through and who isn't. Okay.
Right? The ones that aren't going to follow through, you invite them back to the audience to enjoy the show from there. The rest of them who already know that they're going to follow through, who are very suggestible anyway, then you give them small tasks, and the more funny they are, the more applause they get. It's just positive reinforcement, right? So they get all that positive reinforcement, and they feel more and more confident and secure, and then they just build up to more crazy, audacious stuff, and people just go along with it. And part of it is because they're responding to suggestion, which we all do. Right. So hypnosis, the most powerful hypnotist on our planet is your television set, or perhaps now your smartphone. Yeah, it's your smartphone. And so intelligent people will watch pharmaceutical commercials, and they will watch people, older couples holding hands in the park, and kids playing frisbee with their dog, and people at, in a band, and all these happy, beautiful messages. And they're watching this while they're also saying that if you take this pill, your eyes will bleed, your head will fall off, you will explode, and then people are watching those happy images. They go to their doctor and they think, you know what, I think I need the blue pill, right? And so we're always responding to suggestion. Hypnotists are just very good at knowing how to find people that are very suggestible and then set the show up. It's like a magic show. Okay. The rabbit was in the hat the whole time. But the whole spiel of saying that the hat is empty and all the stuff he does, and then he pulls the rabbit out, right? But the rabbit was there the whole time. So there's no such thing as going under. Okay. But then there's a whole other side that's been around for about 300 years and maybe longer, because when you go all the way back to the Egyptian time, thousands of years ago, the Egyptians, if you felt sick, you would go to a sleep temple. You would lay down, and the healers would give you suggestions. They would hum songs. They would put smells around you. They would feather you. They would help, massage, and then people would get better, right? And they were just giving hypnotic suggestions. They just didn't call it that at the time. Right. So this kind of approach has been around for a long, long time.
So it's about, and again, I want to ask you, I heard you say something about calming.
Yes.
So talk about that, because I have been accused of never being calm. So yeah. Talk about that.
Well, I will tell you, a lot of times we have difficulty slowing down and feeling calm or feeling relaxed or letting go of control, because we feel like we always got to make things happen. We got to go 1,000 miles an hour. And because of the issues that we have with our own insecurities, we have a hard time letting go of control or letting our guards down, because we know we don't feel safe. Right? For whatever reason that may be. And so I always give the analogy, since I live in Indianapolis, we've got the Indy 500, and those $1 million race cars are built for speed and performance. They're built to win races. They're built to zip around that track and win. But if they don't take the pit stops, they don't finish the race. And when you take a pit stop, you literally stop to recharge, retire, give a drink of water, and then get out there and win those races, because that's what you were built and designed to do. But you've got to take the pit stops. And too many times we're not taking the pit stops. And so our energy is frenetic. It's like a floodlight instead of a laser beam. Also, when you slow down and you get quiet, that's often when your best ideas come in. Right. And so, it's so important. You can think through history, all the most amazing, Einstein and Newton and all these amazing people. And they would say, I take naps. Even Jeff Bezos says it. I take naps, because when I take a 20-minute nap, you would think, oh, you're not being productive. That's in the middle of the day. You should be crushing it. No, I slow down and get quiet. And that's when I allow the thoughts from the universe to download into my mind that allow me to take my business to the next level.
I love that. So let's shift gears a little bit. You've got this program we talked about called the Power of Unconscious Mind. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun. You can imagine the stories that I have from 30 years of being a hypnotist and helping people in all kinds of situations. And so I share those stories and what I've learned about how your mind works. And then I give you the secret codes for how to get the most out of your mind, so that you can shift from stress to success. You can shift from anxiety to calm, where you can start to go from procrastinating to feeling motivated and inspired without having someone hang over you. And we are constantly programming ourselves, and nobody really recognizes that they're doing it. by the words that we use, by the things that we say to ourselves, by the stories we tell ourselves about what we think is happening in our life. When you feel a certain feeling, it's not because of the situation that you're experiencing. It's because of how you're describing the situation to yourself. It's how you're interpreting what's going on.
Right.
And those interpretations are based on the experiences that you had as a child. You know, they say that we form most of our life beliefs about who I am, who you are, what kind of world we live in by the time we're 8 years old. So it's like we got a little 8-year-old in our mind, Pat, you know, deciding how to handle the situation that's in front of us.
Right.
And we both had 8-year-olds. That's not a good idea. And you can really see it when it comes out, because when people are stressed or frustrated and all of a sudden they're having temper tantrums, they're holding their breath, they're giving you the silent treatment, you know, they're digging in. They're not.
Is that just 8-year-olds? I think those are adults too.
That's right. Those 8-year-olds grow up, but they still have those 8-year-old beliefs in their mind that people don't realize. We don't realize that things that happened to us when we were 12 years old are still affecting us when we're 43 years old. You know, we always think it's something that's happening in my marriage or something that's happening with my boss or with my employee or with, you know, a customer. We don't realize that those initial reactions are coming from these beliefs that we have formed inside of our mind years ago. Yeah. And so when I stopped focusing on trying to shift what's happening right in the moment for people that were coming to me for coaching, and I started looking at what would you have to believe in order to show up this way, in order to feel the way that you're feeling right now, what would you have to believe? And I started taking people back, and they would go back to when they were 5 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old, 12 years old, constantly. It didn't matter who it was I was working with or what they did for a living or what their role was, what their title was, what experiences they've been through, if they had big T or little T traumas. You know, it didn't matter what they had been through. I've worked with every kind of person on every kind of issue there is. And people always go back to some experience that they had in childhood. And remember, it's not the experience, it's the belief that comes from it. Right. If you get bit by a rattlesnake, Pat, the bite hurts. But that's not what gets you. It's the venom that's left inside. That's what paralyzes people. And our venom are limiting beliefs, and we got to get it out.
So, Tim, we could probably do a 4 or 5 hour podcast around that as it relates to what's going on in our world today.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, you just said something, and again, we're not going to, you know, we'll keep it on task, on focus. However, you know, this can go off the rails pretty quick. When you think about what we've gone through in the last year to 12 months, and now some of that is starting to kind of repeat itself, is what we went through kind of potentially kind of clouding people in moving forward? I mean, am I just stretching there, or is that a reality?
I think that you're accurate. You know, it's one version of reality that we're having right now that we're really being stretched. Anxiety and depression was on the rise before COVID.
Right.
And then when COVID struck, just the level of uncertainty, what's going to happen, the physical distancing. I never liked the term social distancing. It was physical distancing. We needed to socially come more together. Right. But, you know, and then the mistrust that happened with the politicians, you know, and what was going on with that crazy show in Washington, it just it divided us more. Right. And so, however, we are also in a time where we are addressing issues in a way that we've never done before. And more people have a voice because of the internet now than ever before. You know, and powerful people are being held accountable. I mean, it's a very unique time in human history that we're going through right now. So yes, it's volatile. It has a lot of scary motion, you know, things that are happening, things that are in motion. Sure. But there are also a ton of opportunities here. Right. And of course, the power question I'm always asking myself is where's the creative opportunity in this situation? How can we use this to do some good? How can we use this to our advantage? Because again, it doesn't matter what shows up. What matters is how you show up and how you respond to it.
So I want to shift gears. We're going to come back to because you've got a great gift for our guests. Mm-hmm. I prepared you for this. So I always ask my guests, I say, what's the best advice you've ever been given that hopefully you followed?
Yeah, I will tell you, there's been a lot of advice over the years. And I think the bit of advice that has mattered the most is love and accept yourself and just show up being you instead of putting on a show and trying to be what you think others want or need you to be. Because the more you try to please them, the more it never seems to work out. The more you keep giving to people who are takers, the more they're going to take. And then we end up resentful because we're never getting it back. And then we get really angry, or we go and have big pity parties for ourselves. And none of that leads to a fulfilling life. So fill yourself up with love, self-acceptance, encouragement, and support. Fill yourself up with that. And then you fill yourself up with that every day so that you can spend the rest of your time pouring into others, so that you really can be others focused, lifting others up instead of being concerned with what am I going to get out of it. And when you do that, you live a pretty miraculous kind of lifestyle. Amazing things keep showing up.
So let me ask you a question on that. Is that what would you say to somebody who says, okay, Tim, how do I fill myself up? Like, what would be one or two things I could do every day to fill myself up? What would you say? Where would they start?
Well, you could start with the Success Ascent podcast.
Oh, I love that. That was not a paid endorsement. Love that.
So following podcasts like the one that you have, Pat, right, where you are sharing information and bringing messages and positive energy, and then we just fill up in that way. YouTube videos, TikTok videos, subscribe to people that have positive messaging, inspiring movies, hang around with people that are supportive, right? Hang around with in groups, either online or in person, with other people who are fellow entrepreneurs who will understand the pressures and challenges that you're under. Because if they're not an entrepreneur or a business owner or a business leader, they're not going to get it.
Right.
They're not going to understand the kind of pressure. They might see all the cool stuff that goes with it, but then, they don't understand why you might be feeling down or a little stressed or a little frustrated. They don't understand that you're the one that's always having to be up, right? And how draining that is.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, having coaches or using hypnosis audio programs, meditating, fitness, making time for exercise. Most people don't do it because I got to get my newsletter done. I got to check my emails. I've got to reply to this client, right? And so we keep sacrificing our health. We don't take those pit stops. I'll get it next time around. And then we don't. And then something blows.
Yeah. And something's always blowing, right? I mean, it's always, there's stuff always going on.
Yeah.
So let's flip it upside down.
All right.
What's the worst advice that you've ever been given that hopefully you didn't follow? And if you did, what did you learn?
So, yeah, I was thinking about that one because I've definitely had some poor advice. One is always hustle all the time. And if you need more than 3 hours of sleep, you're weak. Right? That is ridiculous. That's a motto for someone who's maybe in their 20s or 30s who are, going hard for a very short period of time. We're going to hustle till we get it done. But that idea that sleep is weakness is ridiculous, right? Sleep is necessary for your body. It recharges your brain, and you will not be near as effective. You'll be busy, but you will not be productive if you don't take care of your brain and your body in the right way. Another bit of advice came from the very first millionaire I ever asked for advice from. And he said, I work 1 hour, I make $1. I work 2 hours, I made $2. I just doubled my money. And his idea was you just work all the time. And, he had a horrible marriage. He was mean. Nobody liked him, but he was very wealthy. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. And he yelled all the time because he was always working, and he never built it. He never poured into himself. He never took time to strengthen his relationships with his family or his friends. And as a result, he was like a Scrooge before the transformation. Right. And that was pretty terrible advice as well.
Yeah. Plus, he wasn't real sharp in math. If I work 2 hours, I mean,
that's a good point too.
Right. I'm sorry.
That's a good point. No, you're right. That's right. So, yeah.
So you have been kind enough to offer our guests a gift, and I'm going to scroll the website down at the bottom, and we'll include it in the show notes. Tell us what we're going to get at thepowermindsetprogram.com.
Yeah, so it's a great program. It's video, or you can just listen to it when you're on the go or on driving or taking a walk. And so it will just teach. I'm going to share really fun, empowering stories with you about different experiences I've had and how I've helped people to triumph over some pretty wild stuff. There was a TV weatherman who had a huge phobia of spiders. And I ended up, he ran out on a live, broadcast on TV in the middle of the weather report, saw that spider and hit the road.
Oh no.
And so I came into the station and I said, if you give me an hour, I'll have that spider on his arm. And they almost didn't let me on. They're like, you're a quack, you're retarded. Excuse my language here. There's no way you're going to be able to do that.
Right.
And so I said, well, bring me on and I'll show you. And so long story short, I only had 10 minutes with him, and we did in fact get that spider on his arm, and it was pretty powerful. And so then it's like, how did you do that? And we just shifted what was going on in his mind. So I've got story after story. And as I'm telling these stories, I'm sharing with you the tools, the tips, and the strategies that you can use immediately to start using the power of your mind to create your life by design.
I love it. I love it. Well, Tim, we're very grateful. And I know I can't wait to go take advantage of that. So while I do a little cleanup here, I'd love you to come up with a final thought to leave our guests with something powerful, impactful. And so, ladies and gentlemen, again, we so appreciate you listening, you supporting, you sharing our recordings, our podcast episodes. Again, you can find it at patmancuso.com/podcast, or you can go to www.thesuccessascent.com. That'll basically get you to the same place, and you can see all of our episodes, subscribe for future updates. And so we just are truly grateful that you listen. So Tim, take us away. What would be one final thought you'd leave with our listeners?
That you truly have magic inside of you. It is incredible, the power that you have inside of your mind. You were born with it. You're already enough. You have nothing to prove. You're already good. And as you learn to use the power of your mind to create your life by design, you're going to be able to make the rest of your life the best of your life. So make sure that you're focusing on loving yourself, empowering yourself, encouraging yourself. And if you have a hard time doing that, then reach out and get a coach who can help you to make that happen. It's the most important thing you can do. And when you start believing in yourself in this way, you can accomplish anything.
Well, Tim, that's a great thought to leave. And I'm guessing you'll probably agree with this too. The power of the mind goes both ways, right? And so it's used to help us and grow, and it's also used to hold us back. And so we get to choose which one. And so I just love what you're doing. I love what you brought to the table today. And so I just want to tell you thank you so much, and thanks for the gift for our listeners.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, every garden has flowers and weeds, but whatever you water, that's what's going to grow. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's been an honor to be with you. It's great to see you again. And thank you so much for what you do.
Well, Tim, thanks so much. Listeners, as I end every show, be safe, be healthy, be happy. Take care and have an awesome day.